Dear friends and fellow dreamer, today I stand before you to talk about something that has the power to change lives, something that can shape our future, both personally and as a society: critical thinking. Well, at some point in our lives, we've all been faced with challenges that seemed insurmountable. We've encountered situations where the path forward wasn't clear, where the world around us seemed to crumble, and where we wondered if we had the strength to move forward. But it is during these moments that the power of critical thinking can truly guide us. Critical thinking is not just about logic or analysis. It's about the courage to question the world around you, to challenge norms, and to not settle for the first answer you're given. It's about being able to look at a problem from multiple angles and to refuse to accept things at face value. The world is full of noise, opinions, judgments, expectations, and distractions. But it's through critical thinking that we can filter out the noise, to listen to our inner voice and trust our instincts. It gives us the clarity to make decisions that align with our values and aspirations instead of just following what's easiest or most popular. Critical thinking teaches us to not just react to life circumstances, but to reflect, to analyze what is truly important and what is worth our energy. It teaches us that we can't control everything, but we can control how we respond. It empowers us to challenge assumptions, ask difficult questions, and most importantly, to keep seeking knowledge and growth. When we stop accepting things as they are and begin to question them, when we start using our minds to think critically about the way things should be, that's when we unlock the power to create change. Change in our own lives, in the lives of others, and in the world we live in. I want you to think about this for a moment. How often do we allow ourselves to just go through life on autopilot? How many times do we simply follow the path laid out for us without questioning, without curiosity, without passion? Critical thinking challenges us to break free from this autopilot mode, to take a step back and to re-evaluate the very way we see the world. It teaches us resilience. It teaches us that failure is not the end, but just a stepping stone towards something greater. Because when we think critically, we realize that each failure is a lesson, a clue to help us find a better way forward. It's not about perfection, it's about progress, about moving forward with intention, with understanding, and with the ability to adapt. Critical thinking is the foundation upon which we build our dreams. It is the tool that helps us see beyond the limitations others might impose on us and empowers us to reach for more than what we are told is possible. So I encourage you to embrace critical thinking. Be bold enough to question. Be brave enough to think differently. When you do this, you begin to see not just with your eyes, but with your mind. You start to see possibilities, opportunities, and pathways that you never imagined before. Don't just accept the world as it is, challenge it. Don't just accept the life you're given, create the life you deserve. The power of critical thinking is within all of us. It's time we unlock it. Critical thinking starts with a fundamental principle: question everything. This is not merely an invitation to challenge the status quo, but a call to truly understand the world around us. To think critically is to resist the temptation of accepting things at face value, to push beyond superficial explanations, and to dig deeper into the core of ideas and beliefs. It's about recognizing that nothing is fixed and that everything has a reason, a history, and a context that may not always be immediately visible or understood. The process of questioning goes beyond simple curiosity. It's a deliberate act of engaging with the world in a way that demands understanding, analysis, and reflection. It's about stepping into a space where assumptions no longer hold the same weight they once did. Every piece of information we encounter, every opinion shared with us, and every narrative presented to us should be examined through a critical lens, one that recognizes the possibility of bias, hidden agendas, or incomplete information. When we question everything, we give ourselves the permission to explore alternatives, to entertain ideas that may seem uncomfortable, and to challenge viewpoints that are deeply ingrained in our societies. This is crucial because as humans, we often fall into patterns of thinking that are shaped by culture, tradition, or authority. We accept the truth as it's presented to us without truly asking whether it's the whole truth or just a version of it. Questioning allows us to see beyond these filters and to begin understanding the underlying dynamics that shape our beliefs. In many cases, the unquestioned acceptance of norms can lead to a kind of intellectual complacency. People follow trends, adopt opinions, and live by rules because these ideas have been passed down through generations or because they've been reinforced by those in power. To break free from this cycle, we must learn to ask the hard questions. Why do we believe what we believe? Why are we expected to think in certain ways? And perhaps most importantly, who benefits from us accepting these ideas without challenge? The act of questioning requires courage. It can be uncomfortable to confront ideas that challenge our worldview or to be the one in a room asking difficult questions. It can alienate us from others or make us feel isolated. But this discomfort is a sign that we are growing, that we are pushing the boundaries of our own understanding. When we question everything, we often find ourselves in situations where we don't have all the answers, where we must confront our ignorance, and where we may feel vulnerable. However, this vulnerability is the birthplace of new knowledge. It's in those moments of uncertainty that we begin to uncover new truths, perspectives, and possibilities. Critical thinking isn't just about asking questions, it's about asking the right questions. Often we get caught in the trap of asking surface-level questions that do not lead to meaningful insights. For example, when we are presented with a news story, we may ask, "What happened?" or "Who's responsible?" These are important questions, but they are just the beginning. To truly understand the situation, we need to ask questions that explore deeper causes and effects. Why did this happen? What led to this event? What are the underlying factors that contributed to this outcome? How does this issue fit into the broader context of society, politics, and history? These are the questions that unlock new layers of understanding, that challenge our preconceived notions, and that bring us closer to the truth. In addition to asking the right questions, we must also develop the skills to critically evaluate the answers we receive. In today's world, information is abundant, but not all of it is trustworthy. Every piece of information we encounter should be treated with a healthy dose of skepticism. Who is providing this information? What are their motives? What evidence do they offer to support their claims? Are there alternative explanations that we should consider? These are the questions that allow us to sift through the noise and identify reliable sources of information. To question everything also means questioning our own beliefs and assumptions. This is one of the most challenging aspects of critical thinking. It's easy to look outward and challenge the ideas of others, but it's much harder to turn that questioning inward and examine our own convictions. We all hold beliefs and assumptions that shape our actions and decisions. But are these beliefs truly our own, or have they been shaped by external influences? Are they based on evidence, or have we accepted them because they feel comfortable or familiar? To think critically is to constantly evaluate our own biases, prejudices, and blind spots. It's to be willing to admit that we may be wrong, that we may have overlooked important factors, and that we have room to grow and learn. One of the most profound impacts of questioning everything is that it fosters a deeper connection with the world around us. When we question, we engage more deeply with the ideas, people, and situations we encounter. We move beyond passive consumption of information and enter into an active process of discovery and exploration. We no longer take things for granted, but instead we seek to understand the complexities and nuances of every situation. This not only makes us more informed, but also more empathetic. As we question the world, we begin to recognize the experiences and perspectives of others, even those that differ from our own. We start to appreciate the diversity of thought that exists and the value of different viewpoints. Questioning everything also has the potential to lead to positive change. Throughout history, progress has been driven by individuals who dared to question the prevailing wisdom of their time. Think of the scientists who challenged accepted theories, the activists who fought against injustice, or the thinkers who introduced new ideas that revolutionized the way we understand the world. These individuals didn't accept the world as it was, they asked questions, explored alternatives, and pushed boundaries. They weren't afraid to question authority, to challenge the powerful, and to pursue truth, even when it was inconvenient or uncomfortable. In doing so, they created the conditions for innovation, social progress, and personal growth. This spirit of questioning is just as vital today as it was in the past. In our rapidly changing world, the ability to question everything is more important than ever. We are faced with complex issues, social, political, environmental, and technological, that require creative solutions and fresh thinking. The answers of yesterday may not be the answers of tomorrow, and the conventional wisdom that guides us today may no longer serve us in the future. To navigate this uncertainty, we must be willing to question, to challenge, and to innovate. We must be open to the possibility that what we once thought to be true may no longer hold. And we must be prepared to embrace new ways of thinking that will allow us to adapt and thrive. Questioning everything cultivates an attitude of lifelong learning. It encourages us to stay curious, to remain open to new ideas, and to keep seeking knowledge. The world is constantly evolving, and there will always be more to learn. By embracing the habit of questioning, we develop the mindset of a learner, someone who is never satisfied with what they know, but who is always seeking to understand more deeply, to expand their horizons, and to grow intellectually. The habit of questioning everything is not just for philosophers or intellectuals. It's for everyone. It's for the student who is trying to make sense of the world. It's for the leader who must navigate complex decisions. It's for the activist who is working to bring about change. It's for the parent who is raising the next generation. We all have a stake in questioning the world around us, because the choices we make, the beliefs we hold, and the actions we take are influenced by the answers we arrive at. If we want to live lives of purpose, authenticity, and growth, we must cultivate the ability to ask the tough questions and seek the answers that are not immediately apparent. This commitment to questioning everything can be uncomfortable, even unsettling at times. But it is through discomfort that we grow. It is through the process of challenging our assumptions, confronting our biases, and rethinking our beliefs that we open ourselves to new possibilities and new perspectives. It is through questioning that we begin to break down the walls that limit our thinking. And it is through this process that we begin to see the world as it truly is. Not as it's been presented to us, but as it is in all its complexity, diversity, and potential. So the next time you encounter something that seems obvious, take a moment to question it. Don't just accept it at face value. Dig deeper, explore the context, challenge the assumptions. Failure is often perceived as something negative, something to avoid at all costs. In a world where success is celebrated and failure is stigmatized, we are taught to fear the feeling of falling short. But what if I told you that failure is not the end, but rather the beginning of something far more valuable? Growth. The truth is that failure is an essential part of the learning process, a stepping stone that can propel us forward if we allow it to. When we experience failure, it's natural to feel disappointed, frustrated, or even defeated. After all, we set out to achieve something, and when it doesn't work out, it can feel like a personal setback. But failure is not a reflection of our worth or abilities, it's simply feedback. It tells us that something didn't work as planned and that there's an opportunity to reevaluate, adjust, and try again. As such, in fact, the most successful people throughout history have failed countless times before reaching their goals. The difference between those who give up and those who continue is their ability to see failure not as an end, but as a lesson, as a valuable tool for learning. In many ways, failure teaches us more than success ever could. When we succeed, we often move forward without fully understanding why things worked out. Success can feel effortless in comparison to the struggle that precedes failure. But when we fail, we are forced to reflect, to understand what went wrong, and to seek ways to improve. This process of reflection leads to insight, which is the foundation of growth. We learn to adapt, to try different approaches, and to develop resilience. Each failure builds our capacity to handle adversity and teaches us to think critically about how we can do better next time. Moreover, failure challenges us to let go of our attachment to perfection. In a world obsessed with perfection, we often find ourselves paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes. We set unrealistic standards and expectations for ourselves, believing that failure is an indication of our incompetence. But perfection is an illusion, and striving for it can prevent us from taking risks, exploring new ideas, and stepping outside of our comfort zone. Failure, on the other hand, encourages us to embrace imperfection. It teaches us that mistakes are not something to be ashamed of, but something to be learned from. Every time we fall short, we gain valuable information that helps us refine our skills and approach. This process of learning from failure is not always straightforward. It requires patience, perseverance, and a willingness to embrace discomfort. It means stepping outside our ego and accepting that we don't have all the answers. It's about acknowledging our limitations and understanding that failure is not a reflection of our potential, but a natural part of the journey towards success. The most successful individuals are not those who avoid failure, but those who persist despite it, those who are willing to fail repeatedly in pursuit of their goals. In fact, the fear of failure can be more detrimental than the failure itself. When we allow the fear of making mistakes to control us, we limit our potential. We become afraid to try new things, to innovate, or to take risks. This fear can paralyze us, preventing us from reaching our full potential. By embracing failure, we free ourselves from this fear and open up new possibilities for growth. We begin to see failure not as something to be avoided, but as a necessary part of the process of achieving greatness. Failure does not define us. How we respond to it does. When we choose to learn from our failures and use them as stepping stones toward improvement, we unlock our true potential. Additionally, failure helps us develop a growth mindset, a belief that our abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. People with a growth mindset understand that failure is not an indication of a fixed limitation, but an opportunity to learn and grow. They see challenges as opportunities for growth, not obstacles to success. This mindset empowers us to push through difficult situations, knowing that each failure brings us one step closer to success. It shifts our perspective from seeing failure as something to be feared to seeing it as an essential part of the journey toward achieving our goals. Failure also builds resilience. Life is full of challenges and setbacks, and it's easy to become discouraged when things don't go as planned. But each time we fail and rise again, we develop the mental and emotional strength to face future challenges with greater confidence and determination. Resilience is not built in moments of success, but in moments of failure, when we are forced to pick ourselves up, learn from our mistakes, and keep moving forward. It's through failure that we develop the grit to persevere in the face of adversity, to continue pursuing our dreams even when the path seems uncertain or difficult. Failure fosters creativity and innovation. When we fail, we are often forced to think outside the box, to try new approaches, and to find creative solutions to the problems we face. If we never failed, we would never be pushed to think differently, to question the status quo, or to experiment with new ideas. Innovation is born from the willingness to take risks and to fail. It's the willingness to make mistakes, learn from them, and try again with a new perspective. Failure then becomes an essential driver of progress and creativity. The most important thing to remember about failure is that it is not permanent, it does not define us, and it does not determine our future success. What matters is how we respond to failure. Do we let it defeat us, or do we use it as an opportunity to grow? Do we allow it to shape our self-worth, or do we recognize it as a natural part of the process of learning and improvement? Failure is only final if we give up. As long as we continue to learn from it, to adjust, and to try again, failure remains a temporary obstacle on the road to success. Failure is not something to be feared or avoided, but something to be embraced. It is through failure that we learn, grow, and ultimately achieve our greatest successes. We should not let failure define us or discourage us from pursuing our dreams. Instead, we should let it motivate us to keep going, to keep learning, and to keep striving for greatness. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is an integral part of the journey toward it. When faced with a problem or challenge, we often jump to conclusions, seeking the quickest solution or the simplest explanation. But critical thinking teaches us to look deeper, to examine the situation from multiple angles before making a decision. It reminds us that problems are rarely as simple as they first appear, and that the answers we seek often require us to consider a variety of perspectives. Thinking beyond the surface means refusing to accept the first solution that comes to mind, instead pushing ourselves to explore all possibilities and uncover hidden complexities. At its core, thinking beyond the surface is about acknowledging that everything has a deeper layer. Whether we are solving a personal problem, analyzing a global issue, or simply navigating our daily lives, there are always underlying factors that influence the situation. A quick glance may tell us one thing, but a more thorough examination reveals the broader context, the historical background, the emotional dynamics, and the unseen consequences of our actions. The challenge then is to move past the obvious and embrace a deeper understanding of what is truly going on. This approach requires us to question our assumptions. We all carry mental shortcuts or cognitive biases that influence how we see the world. These biases often lead us to make snap judgments based on limited information. When we think beyond the surface, we actively challenge these biases and strive to see beyond our immediate reactions. Instead of assuming we know what's going on, we ask questions, look for evidence, and consider alternative explanations. Only by doing so can we arrive at a more comprehensive understanding of the issue at hand. Thinking beyond the surface also involves recognizing that things are rarely black and white. The world is filled with shades of gray, with multiple perspectives that can offer valuable insights. By thinking beyond the surface, we learn to appreciate the complexity of situations and the diversity of opinions. This perspective is especially important when faced with difficult decisions or controversial issues. Instead of simply aligning ourselves with one side of an argument, we take the time to explore all sides, to consider the reasoning behind each viewpoint, and to understand the underlying motivations. In doing so, we become more informed, more empathetic, and more open-minded. One of the key elements of thinking beyond the surface is the ability to ask better questions. The quality of the questions we ask directly impacts the quality of the answers we receive. When we ask superficial questions, we only scratch the surface of a problem. But when we ask thoughtful, probing questions, we dig deeper and uncover new possibilities. For example, instead of asking, "What's wrong with this situation?" we might ask, "What factors contributed to this situation?" or "What are the long-term consequences of this decision?" These types of questions encourage us to look at the problem from a variety of angles and to consider the broader implications of our actions. Asking better questions also means being comfortable with uncertainty. When we think beyond the surface, we often find ourselves in unfamiliar territory where answers are not immediately clear. This uncertainty can be uncomfortable, but it is also an essential part of critical thinking. Instead of rushing to conclusions, we embrace the unknown and take the time to explore all the possibilities. In doing so, we develop a more nuanced understanding of the issue and become better equipped to make informed decisions. Thinking beyond the surface also requires us to challenge our own thinking. It's easy to fall into the trap of confirmation bias, where we only seek out information that supports our existing beliefs. However, critical thinking demands that we look beyond our own perspectives and consider viewpoints that may challenge our assumptions. This doesn't mean we have to accept every new idea or argument, but it does mean we should be open to considering different perspectives and examining our beliefs with a critical eye. By doing so, we expand our understanding and enrich our decision-making process. Thinking beyond the surface involves recognizing the interconnectedness of things. In many cases, the problems we face are not isolated incidents, but are part of a larger system. Whether we're dealing with a personal issue, a societal challenge, or a global crisis, it's important to see how the various elements of the situation are interconnected. This requires us to step back and consider the bigger picture, to look beyond the immediate consequences of our actions and think about the long-term impact. By doing so, we make better decisions that are not just based on short-term outcomes, but also take into account the broader context and future implications. Another aspect of thinking beyond the surface is the willingness to embrace complexity. In our fast-pacing world, we often crave simple answers and quick solutions. But the truth is that many of the issues we face are complex and multifaceted. They cannot be understood or solved with simple solutions or surface-level analysis. Thinking beyond the surface means being willing to dive into the complexity, to grapple with ambiguity, and to acknowledge that there are no easy answers. It means accepting that the world is not always neat and tidy, and that we must be comfortable with complexity in order to truly understand and address the challenges we face. Thinking beyond the surface requires us to cultivate curiosity. When we are genuinely curious, we seek to understand the world around us more deeply. We ask questions, explore new ideas, and actively seek out information. Curiosity drives us to think beyond the surface, to question what we know, and to expand our horizons. It keeps us open to new possibilities and encourages us to explore uncharted territory. The pursuit of knowledge is not just about accumulating facts or information. It's about deepening our understanding of the world around us and honing our ability to think critically. When we empower ourselves through knowledge, we gain the tools necessary to navigate life's complexities and make informed decisions. In a world where information is constantly at our fingertips, it's easy to fall into the trap of passively absorbing whatever is presented to us. However, true empowerment comes from actively engaging with information, questioning it, and using it to shape our own perspectives and actions. Knowledge is power, but not in the traditional sense of being able to boast about what we know or impress others with our expertise. The power of knowledge lies in its ability to transform our thinking and our lives. When we know more, we understand better. We become more capable of making decisions that align with our values, more confident in our ability to solve problems, and more aware of the world's intricacies. Knowledge opens doors to new possibilities and allows us to approach challenges with greater clarity and insight. Empowering ourselves through knowledge also means recognizing the responsibility that comes with it. Knowledge is not neutral. It can be used to either elevate or manipulate. The way we apply our knowledge determines its impact on the world. By empowering ourselves with knowledge, we are also taking on the responsibility of using it ethically and thoughtfully. It's not enough to simply know something. We must consider how our knowledge affects others and the world at large. This sense of responsibility helps us use our knowledge for the greater good, whether we are making decisions in our personal lives, contributing to our communities, or influencing larger societal change. One of the most important aspects of empowering ourselves through knowledge is the ability to think critically. Knowledge without critical thinking is like a map without a compass. It may provide information, but it doesn't help us navigate the complexities of life. Critical thinking allows us to assess the validity of the information we encounter, to question assumptions, and to identify biases or gaps in our understanding. By challenging us to look deeper, to examine evidence, and to form conclusions based on logic and reasoning rather than mere acceptance of what we are told. In today's information age, critical thinking is more important than ever. We are bombarded with a constant stream of information from a variety of sources, news outlets, social media, advertisements, and more. Not all of this information is reliable or accurate. Some is designed to manipulate, mislead, or distract us. Without the ability to think critically, we risk being swayed by false information, falling victim to misinformation, or making decisions based on incomplete or biased data. By empowering ourselves with the ability to think critically, we become more discerning consumers of information and more capable of making decisions that reflect our true understanding of the world. Critical thinking is not just about skepticism or doubt. It's about being open-minded and curious. It's about recognizing that no one has all the answers and that learning is a lifelong process. Empowering ourselves through knowledge means being willing to question our own beliefs, to challenge our assumptions, and to seek out new perspectives. When we empower ourselves in this way, we open ourselves to growth and transformation. We learn to embrace uncertainty and complexity, knowing that understanding is not always immediate or straightforward. It's a journey that requires patience, humility, and a willingness to admit when we don't know something. Another aspect of empowerment through knowledge is the ability to apply what we learn in practical ways. Knowledge is most powerful when it is used to solve real-world problems. Whether we are tackling personal challenges, addressing societal issues, or contributing to a team or organization, the application of knowledge allows us to make a tangible impact. The more we know, the more tools we have at our disposal to create solutions, innovate, and improve the world around us. Empowerment through knowledge is not just about intellectual growth. It's about using that growth to make a difference. In addition to its practical applications, knowledge also gives us the power to see the world from different perspectives. The more we learn about different cultures, histories, and viewpoints, the more we understand the complexities of the human experience. This broader perspective helps us navigate the challenges we face with greater empathy and understanding. We begin to appreciate the diversity of thought and the richness of experience that exists in the world. This empowerment through knowledge leads to greater compassion. As we recognize that our own experiences and beliefs are just one part of a much larger, more intricate story. Empowering ourselves with knowledge allows us to become more self-sufficient. The more we know, the less dependent we become on others to provide answers or solutions. We become more confident in our ability to think for ourselves, make informed decisions, and solve problems independently. This sense of self-sufficiency is incredibly empowering as it gives us control over our own lives and destinies. However, rather than relying on external sources of authority or validation, we can trust our own knowledge and abilities to guide us. End quote. Empowerment through knowledge also means being proactive in our learning. In today's fast-pacing world, knowledge is constantly evolving. New discoveries are made, new technologies are developed, and new challenges arise. To stay empowered, we must commit to continuous learning. This means seeking out new information, staying curious, and being willing to adapt to changing circumstances. Knowledge is not a destination. It is a lifelong pursuit. The more we invest in our own learning, the more empowered we become to navigate the ever-changing landscape of our lives. Knowledge is a powerful tool that can transform our lives in profound ways. By empowering ourselves through knowledge, we gain the ability to think critically, make informed decisions, and solve problems with greater confidence. We also gain a deeper understanding of the world and our place within it, allowing us to engage with others more compassionately and effectively. But perhaps most importantly, we gain the power to shape our own futures. Through knowledge, we become the architects of our own destinies, capable of creating the lives we want and contributing meaningfully to the world around us. Change is one of the few constants in life, yet many of us resist it. We cling to routines, traditions, and comfort zones because they offer familiarity and stability. However, the ability to create change with intention is one of the most powerful tools we possess. Change is not something that happens to us, it is something we can actively shape and influence. When we approach change with purpose, we unlock the potential to improve our lives, our communities, and the world around us. Intentional change is a conscious, deliberate process that allows us to transform challenges into opportunities, to rethink outdated practices, and to create new paths for ourselves and others. Creating change with intention requires self-awareness. It starts with the recognition that change is possible and that we have the power to initiate it. We cannot begin the process of change if we do not first believe that we can influence the outcomes in our lives. This belief in our agency is fundamental to making meaningful change. Self-awareness helps us identify areas in our lives or communities that need improvement and guides us toward the changes we want to see. Without this understanding of who we are and what we desire, change becomes a reactive force rather than a proactive one. We might drift along with circumstances, passively responding to whatever comes our way, rather than taking control of our direction and shaping the future we want. Intentional change also involves a clear sense of purpose. Change without purpose can feel aimless and ineffective. If we want to create lasting, meaningful change, we need to know why we are doing it. What is our driving motivation? What is the vision that guides us? Whether it's changing a habit, improving a skill, or contributing to a larger societal transformation, the why behind the change helps us stay focused and committed. When we have a clear sense of purpose, we are more likely to persist through obstacles and setbacks. We understand that the road to change is not always easy or smooth, but the purpose keeps us grounded, reminding us of the impact we hope to make. To create change intentionally, we must also be willing to step outside of our comfort zones. Change often requires us to do things differently, to challenge old patterns of thinking and behaving. This can be uncomfortable and at times even frightening. Our comfort zones are places where we feel safe and secure, but they are also places where growth can become stagnant. Intentional change demands that we step into the unknown, that we take risks and embrace uncertainty. It is in the moments of discomfort and uncertainty that we grow the most. By stepping outside our comfort zones, we expand our horizons, learn new things, and develop the resilience needed to navigate challenges. Creating change with intention is also a process of reflection and adaptation. Change is really linear. It requires us to reflect on our progress, learn from our experiences, and adjust our approach when necessary. Intentional change isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about being open to the process, embracing the learning that comes with it, and being flexible in our methods. There will be moments when things don't go as planned, when obstacles arise, or when we question our path. In these moments, the key is not to give up, but to reflect, reassess, and adapt. By continuously evaluating our progress and being open to making adjustments, we ensure that the change we create is both meaningful and sustainable. Creating change with intention requires a willingness to embrace discomfort and failure. Change often brings with it the possibility of failure. This doesn't mean we should fear failure, but rather we should accept it as an inevitable part of the process. Failure is not the end, it is a lesson. an opportunity to learn and grow. When we create change with intention, we acknowledge that the road to success is often paved with mistakes, setbacks, and challenges. What matters is not how many times we fall, but how we respond each time. Every failure offers valuable feedback that helps us refine our approach and move closer to our goal. Another crucial element of creating intentional change is perseverance. Change, especially significant or transformative change, takes time. It's easy to get discouraged when we don't see immediate results, but the most meaningful changes are often the ones that require sustained effort. Perseverance is about staying committed to our goals, even when progress feels slow or when the path seems unclear. It's about maintaining faith in the process and trusting that our consistent efforts will eventually yield the results we seek. The ability to persevere, even in the face of difficulty, is often what separates those who succeed in creating change from those who give up too soon. Creating change with intention also means being mindful of the impact our actions have on others. Change is not a solitary endeavor. It affects the people around us, whether directly or indirectly. When we create change, we must consider how our actions will influence our families, communities, and societies. Are we creating positive change, or are we inadvertently causing harm? Are we considering the needs and perspectives of others as we push for change? Being mindful of our impact ensures that the changes we create are not only beneficial to ourselves, but also contribute to the greater good. This sense of responsibility is key to creating change that is not just effective, but ethical and sustainable. The process of creating change with intention is not limited to individual transformation. It can also apply to larger social, political, and organizational change.